Number 10. The majestic white lion. At a lion sanctuary in South Africa, there is one of the rarest white lions in the world. His name is Moya, and he's about 6 years old. He sports an impressive mane of fluffy white hair that makes him look even more majestic than most fictional cats from things like The Lion King or even Narnia. And while there isn't a lot of information on where exactly he came from, he was recently photographed by professional Simon Needham from Britain, who said he was absolutely shocked by the lion's gorgeous white coat. They aren't technically albinos, but instead have white hair because of a lack of coloration caused by a reduction in pigmentation, not a complete absence of pigmentation. And if you're wondering at this point how a white lion could exist, they are actually more common than you might think. This rare condition causes the lions to appear white and majestic, which is probably why they have been revered as sacred animals by several different African tribes throughout the centuries. Unfortunately, wild white lions have been hunted to near extinction and are only now found in protected areas in specialized animal sanctuaries. It's estimated that there are about 100 white lions in captivity and around 13 that were recently reintroduced into protected wildlife zone. Number 9. The Vaquita. Meet one of the most extraordinary animals in the entire world. The Vaquita is the rarest marine mammal in existence, with only around 10 individuals left living right now as you're watching this video. The Vaquita is literally teetering on the edge of existence. It's a cetacean, which means it's related to whales and dolphins. The first Vaquita wasn't discovered until 1958, and throughout the past 40 or so years, their population has been decimated by illegal fishing operations in the Gulf of California. This is partly because vaquitas hang out very close to the shore in shallow waters. It's been working for them for hundreds of thousands of years, but now their time is almost up. The vaquita itself is a ridiculously adorable animal. They look a lot like miniature dolphins with dark patches around their eyes and lips. They can grow to be about 5 feet long and about 120 pounds, and you'll probably never see one in the wild in your lifetime. I mean, come on, there are only 10 left in the whole world. They could literally be gone tomorrow. Number 8. The Addax. The Addax is the rarest antelope in the world. They are critically endangered, and according to Live Science, there could be as few as 3 remaining in the wild. But don't panic just yet. There are still about 2,000 kept inside zoos and on ranches throughout the world, meaning the Addax could make a heroic comeback in the next few years. The Addax is a type of white antelope with curly horns. Both males and females have spiral horns, with some of the longest being nearly 4 feet long. The Addax also comes complete with natural snowshoes, as their hooves are specially designed to keep the heavy animal from sinking while standing in sand. These beasts used to live all across northern Africa and in parts of the Sahara Desert. They love to be anywhere that's full of sand. This is because they spend almost all of their time stumbling around eating vegetation. The Addax doesn't even need to drink water because it gets all of its hydration it requires through eating grass. Perhaps the most fascinating thing about the Addax is that newborn babies look completely different from adults. The adult Addax is white, while a newborn is a sandy brown colour. This is because they evolved in the desert. Having a newborn baby blend in with the desert sand helps it survive its first couple of years without being eaten by predators. Have you ever heard of an Addax or seen one in a zoo? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Number 7. The South China Tiger. The South China Tiger is often considered to be the rarest tiger in the world. Once upon a time, these ferocious cats roamed through the temperate forests of China, with some scientists even saying that the South China Tiger is the original tiger species from which many others evolved. It's the second smallest tiger in the world. It's fast, it's a keen hunter, and it once fed on the deer and wild boar of the Chinese forests. They're also one of the most well-equipped water hunters of any big cat. The biggest difference in appearance between the South China Tiger and other tigers is that it has visibly thicker stripes that are spaced farther apart, giving it an extremely iconic look. But here's the deal. There hasn't been a South China Tiger seen in the wild for 25 years. They are what is known as functionally extinct. Even though there are a few of them held in cages throughout China and South Africa, they're basically dead in the water. Extinction at this point for the South China Tiger is a real possibility, seeing as in the 50s there were about 4,000 of them left in the wild. By the time the Chinese government banned hunting tigers in 1979, the wild population had been dramatically reduced to only around 30. Number 6. Rare yellow albino turtle. One of the rarest turtles ever spotted by human eyes was recently rescued from a rural village pond in India. The turtle is bright yellow, flat, and has been compared to a melted cheeseburger. It was first spotted inside the village pond in West Bengal, and experts believe the rare animal is afflicted with some kind of albinism that, instead of turning the turtle pale white, transforms the turtle into a bright piece of cheese. It's actually known as an Indian flap-shell turtle, which happens to be an insanely rare species of turtle on its own, even without the yellow colouring. According to the report in the Daily Mail, nobody is really sure just how exactly this mutation came to be. It could be a congenital disorder because of a lack of tyrosine pigment, or it could just be a freaky rarity in nature. Turtles are green after all. Because of where the turtle was discovered, it has been given great spiritual significance by the local people. This is because in Hindu mythology, the turtle is extremely important. Not only did Lord Vishnu take the form of a turtle to save the universe, but the turtle also represents the sky with its top shell and the earth with its bottom shell. A golden turtle is the Hindu equivalent of finding the face of Jesus scorched onto your toast. Number 5. The Spotted Cuscus. The common Spotted Cuscus is so rare that you won't find mention of it almost anywhere. There aren't very many pictures online either. It's a type of marsupial, roughly the size of a house cat. It has thick fur and bright red eyes with slits just like snake eyes. All 4 of the marsupial's feet have 5 digits, acting like monkey paws to give it expert mobility high up in the trees. Interestingly enough, even though it's called the Spotted Cuscus, only the males have spots. These animals also change their colour as they reach sexual maturity, and can even be found in an assortment of different colours, just like house cats, from red to white and black to brown. But good luck spotting a Spotted Cuscus. They live in rainforests throughout southern Australia and are extremely difficult for biologists to study. We don't know how many of these animals are left in the wild, or if they migrated from Australia to New Guinea or the other way around, and so far as we're aware, these funky animals eat a strict diet of plants, eggs and nectar. It's also been reported that they sometimes eat their own babies. Number 4. Ruby SeaDragon. Just a couple of years ago, a newly discovered SeaDragon was seen in the wild for the very first time. I'm talking about the ruby SeaDragon, found only in the waters off of southern Australia. These are not to be confused with seahorses. SeaDragons are very different, and for a long time there were only 2 species known by scientists. There was the leafy SeaDragon and the common SeaDragon. But according to CBC, researchers have just found a 3rd. Experts working with the Scripps Institution of Oceanography and the Western Australian Museum went out into the water to try and find this incredibly rare animal. They had to use a remote underwater camera to go deep beneath the surface, but things were looking pretty bleak. They couldn't find one. It was only until the very last day of the expedition that they finally spotted the ruby SeaDragon in its natural habitat. It was the first time one of these animals was recorded on video. The ruby SeaDragon is red like a ruby, it's not covered in weird lobes like the leafy SeaDragon, and nobody knows anything about it other than where it lives. There could be as few as 5 left in the wild or as many as 5,000. We simply don't know. But what we do know is that there are definitely more animals in the ocean waiting to be discovered. Number 3. Javan Rhino. The Javan Rhino is the rarest of all living rhino species. According to the International Rhino Foundation, there are only about 74 Javan rhinos left in Indonesia. The only place these majestic animals can be found today is in the Ujung Kulon National Park of Indonesia. Their population is stable, but only because they are guarded by specifically trained rhino protection units. Indonesia has done such a good job of protecting these animals that there hasn't been a single poaching event in over 20 years. What's really amazing is that after just 20 years of being left alone, the rhinos have seemingly crawled out of the grave. The population is slowly increasing. The government and non-profit organisations are working to create a larger, more suitable habitat so they can continue to grow, and things are looking up. But of course, things weren't always looking so great for these rare rhinos. The last Javan rhino living in Vietnam was found dead in 2010 with its horn removed from its body. They've been driven out of every other region except for Indonesia, and it's only because of the government actually working to protect the animals that they've managed to stay alive so long. The Javan Rhino has a lifespan of up to 40 years. They're solitary animals in nature and are rarely ever seen. And even though the Javan Rhino is such a monstrous beast, it eats mostly grass, with biologists having identified about 300 various species that comprise its diet. Number 2. The rarest bird ever. The South Philippine dwarf kingfisher is the smallest species of forest kingfisher living in the Philippines. It's a striking bird with bright orange feet, a plumage of bright blue and metallic lilac, and it was first discovered just 130 years ago. It also happens to be one of the rarest birds in the world. Because of its behaviour, it has eluded photographers and scientists ever since its discovery. It's almost impossible to see because it perches quietly on branches and moves so fast it's almost invisible. It wasn't until 2020 that the bird was finally photographed and shown to the world, all thanks to Miguel David de Leon, a field biologist who was lucky enough to get a glimpse of the animal and snapped a picture of it. But what's even more amazing is that it took Miguel and his team over 10 years just to get a single photograph. That's how wildly rare this bird is. They were trying to document it nesting and feeding, but it proved almost impossible. It would now take a miracle for someone new to come along and photograph the bird for a second time. We may never see another South Philippine dwarf kingfisher for another 100 years. Number 1. Tonkin Snub-Nosed Monkey. The Tonkin Snub-Nosed monkey is also known as Vietnam's painted monkey, and it's one of the most endangered primates in the world. This very strange monkey is found only in a handful of isolated forest patches in northern Vietnam. What really distinguishes this monkey from others is its face. It has such a strange set of facial features that it kind of looks like a frowning old man. It has strange blue skin around its eyes and nose, and a large pink mouth. To be quite honest, it looks like the monkey got into somebody's makeup kit and tried to get itself ready for a date. The most recent estimates place the population of snub-nosed monkeys at around 200. It's the rarest of all 5 snub-nosed species, and was only identified for the first time in 1912. These monkeys live in extended family groups, coming together every night to sleep and feed as a unit. What's really crazy is that the Tonkin snub-nosed monkey was already thought to be extinct until a small population was rediscovered in 1990. Unfortunately, these monkeys have been hunted mercilessly, even though everyone knows they're going extinct. This often happens in impoverished mountain communities, where they sell the body parts of the monkey to be used in ancient traditional medicines. Thanks for watching. Which of these amazing animals is your favourite? Let me know in the comments, and if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more amazing videos. See you next time.
From a fish that looks suspiciously like a Pokémon to potential piranhas found in a North Carolina river, here are 10 of the most recent unexplained catches. Number 10. The oldest fish. Just recently, researchers caught the oldest tropical reef fish ever recorded. An 81-year-old midnight snapper was captured off the coast of Western Australia. The fish was caught while conducting a study on rising ocean temperatures, human exploitation, and how the growth of coral reef fishes is affected by it. They actually never meant to catch the oldest reef fish in the world, which, by the way, broke the previous record by an outstanding 20 years according to the Smithsonian. Fish biologist Brett Taylor said that the oldest fish captured before this one was only about 60 years old. But how did they figure out how old the fish was? The team measured the growth rings on the tiny bones inside of its ears. Just like trees, rings on these bones each correspond to a year of growth. But unfortunately, scientists don't think they will ever find another 80-year-old midnight snapper, because the area in which they live is warming at such a dangerous rate that their biology will be severely impacted in the coming years, preventing them from growing that old. If you were curious as to the oldest fish ever found in the sea, it was a Greenland shark discovered in 2016 that was incredibly almost 400 years old. This made it the oldest known vertebrate anywhere on Earth. Number 9. The Pokémon Fish. While it always sucks when a species of anything goes extinct, this bizarre Pokémon-like fish was particularly upsetting because it was so fascinating and weird looking. The unusual fish had hands and feet and a spiky fin growing out of its head, but sadly it was just declared extinct a few months ago. It had bulging eyes, a cool-looking mohawk-like fin. It was able to literally walk across the seafloor with its weird fin-like feet, and it is now the first modern marine fish ever recorded to vanish completely, according to the International Union for Conservation of Nature. What was this Pokemon-looking fish? This was the smooth handfish. 200 years ago, these fish were all over the coastal waters of Australia and Tasmania. A Frenchman named Francois Piranhas captured the first specimen in 1802 with a dip net, and no one had any clue what the thing was. And believe it or not, this was actually the only smooth handfish to ever be caught and studied. But it's not because scientists haven't looked. There just hasn't been any luck. There hasn't been another one sighted since the first one in the 1800s, and now they are officially extinct. Number 8. Piranhas in North Carolina. In North Carolina, a fisherman named Jimmy Smith thought he caught a piranha while fishing in the Catawba River. He reeled in the most horrifying fish he had ever seen. It had extremely sharp teeth that looked like they could easily bite your fingers off, and definitely your toes. But what Jimmy had first thought was a piranha turned out to actually be a cousin of the piranha known as a pacu, and it doesn't belong anywhere near North Carolina. The pacu lives in South America. This bizarre fish, strangely, has teeth that look just like human teeth, but they don't actually feast on flesh like their hungry piranha cousins. If you're wondering how a fish from South America with the teeth of a human ended up in North Carolina, Robert Stroud with the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources says that it probably outgrew an aquarium somewhere and was dumped into the river when its owner could no longer care for it. Robert also says that introducing these types of fish to rivers in the United States can have horrible repercussions, as they sometimes destroy the natural order and kill off the indigenous fish. Have you ever caught or seen a wild animal where it shouldn't belong? What did you do? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, hit the thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe too. Number 7. Scary Canadian redfish. Yet another horrifying monster from the deep was discovered, this time on the east coast of Canada. Paige Irwin and her sister were out wandering along a beach in Halifax when they spotted the freaky looking red blob with gills. And of course they had to get a video. They had first thought that maybe the strange fish could be dangerous. Perhaps it had the ability to spit poison, and so they were too scared to get close. The girls uploaded the video of the bright red sea creature and asked if any marine biologists could identify it, because obviously they were baffled. Luckily, an aquatic biologist did come forward and identify it as something called a sea raven. These remarkable fish are common throughout harbours in Nova Scotia and are often caught while fishing, but these aren't ordinary fish. They make bizarre croaking noises like frogs, and they usually appear brown or yellow. So why was the one the sisters found red? Number 6. Sharp-toothed fish. A couple of fishermen recently caught 2 fish that looked like they came from a time when dinosaurs roamed the earth. They were fishing in the Yakima River Delta and had never expected a pair of completely bizarre fish to swim directly into their nets. They were just trying to catch carp when they made the discovery. These fish were about 3 feet or 1 meter long and did not look like they belonged anywhere in the Pacific Northwest. They had long snouts filled with tiny sharp teeth, almost like miniature alligator snouts. And yeah, they turned out to be alligator gars, fish that are native to the Mississippi River and all the way to Mexico. These fish are able to reach outstanding lengths of up to 10 feet or 3 meters long. Nobody has any clue how these monster fish ended up on the complete opposite side of the country. The fishermen were polite enough to throw the gars back into the river, though it may not have been a good idea. Alligator gars don't belong in the Pacific Northwest and can be dangerous to the local fish population. But of course, the fishermen hadn't known that at the time. They hadn't even known what kind of monster fish they'd caught in their net. Number 5. The Dragon Snakehead. A brand new species of eel-like fish called Dragon Snakeheads were recently discovered living inside of a primitive underground water system in the south of India. Researchers have called these fish living fossils and claim they separated from their closest relatives over 100 million years ago. This kind of discovery is incredibly rare and almost never happens anymore. And the craziest part is that there are an estimated 6 million of these fish living in the underground water reserve. The first one was captured by a local resident in India who pulled the fish out of a well in their backyard. A photo of the fish appeared on social media, marine scientists got involved, and the Dragon Snakehead soon became an entirely new family of fish. One of the coolest features of the dragon snakehead is its suprabranchial organ, which amazingly allows it to breathe air. And yes, the dragon snakehead fish does sort of look like a dragon. Number 4. Unknown alien fish. A 39-year-old Russian fisherman recently shared a terrifying collection of the deep-sea monsters that he caught while working around the world in locations like the Norwegian Sea, the Barents Sea, and even the Atlantic Ocean. The man's name is Roman, and according to the Daily Mail, he went to the Marine University in Murmansk. His job is to catch commercial fish on the trawlers such as cod, haddock, and mackerel. But sometimes he gets more than what's expected. On his social media account, he decided to share some of the strangest, most unusual, and most bizarre creatures he ever caught while at sea. Some of these monsters were easy enough to identify, such as the black and inky anglerfish or the frill shark, both of which are terrifying beasts that live deep in the blackness of the ocean. The frill shark alone has been referred to as a living fossil that can grow 6 feet or 1.8 meters long and has an unusual mouth full of spiky teeth. Dozens of photographs of strange creatures were uploaded to Roman's online accounts, and not all of them were able to be identified. Some of the fish scooped up by the Russian trawler were so strange that nobody could figure out what they were. Some things looked like aliens from outer space, and some of them looked like unbelievable freaks from other dimensions. It's quite an impressive photo collection. Number 3. Creepy catch. A family in British Columbia was enjoying a leisurely stroll at their local beach when they discovered an extremely bizarre fish that had washed up on shore. Now technically the family didn't catch the fish, but they did find it. The family thought it was some kind of monstrous sea creature from the deep ocean because of its huge eyeballs and weird silvery colour. The family took pictures and uploaded them online as they were curious to find out just what kind of weird fish they'd stumbled upon. And thankfully, an aquatic ecologist named Brian Heiss was quick to name their discovery as a unique species of ribbonfish known as King of the Salmon. According to Heiss, ribbonfish are solitary animals. They're almost always found down deep in the water at about 3,000 feet. Although the fish found was pretty big, Heiss said that they can grow much larger, around 6 feet or 1.8 meters long. The reason why they have such large and creepy eyes is that they need them to capture as much light as possible while swimming around at those kind of depths. And even then, that's not a lot of light. The fish probably swam a little too close to the shore and wound up on the beach. But what's really interesting is that these ribbonfish are almost never seen. They are incredibly rare and can even be traced back to indigenous legends, with some groups believing that the king of salmon led migrating salmon back to where they spawned in rivers. This fish has been a legend for hundreds, even thousands of years. Number 2. Triggerfish. A guy on Twitter by the name of Raf Nazir recently uploaded a picture showing a very creepy fish with the lips and teeth of a human. In fact, the lips looked as though they'd been injected with fat to make them plumper, while the teeth looked uncannily similar to those inside of your mouth right now. Nazir captioned the picture with, "Her lips are hotter than mine." After the photo was uploaded, many people were claiming it as a fake, but according to marine biologist Lufti Afik Rosli from the National University in Singapore, the fish was indeed real and definitely had teeth. It was probably a black-bellied triggerfish. These fish are commonly found all throughout tropical regions in the Pacific and are known for having a set of double canine teeth on the top and bottom of their mouth. They use this to catch prey such as shellfish on the floor of the reef, breaking open shells to suck out the yummy food inside. Number 1. The Chimera. Fisherman Gary Goodyear from Canada recently hauled in the strangest creature he had ever seen in his life. He had his nets down 460 fathoms deep, more than 2,400 feet or over 700 meters. When Gary and his crew pulled the nets up, an unidentified monster that looked like a mix between a ghost shark and a platypus flopped out of the net. According to Gary himself, who had been fishing for most of his life, he had never seen something like it ever before. Not a single fisherman on board could identify it either. But here's the craziest part. The fishermen didn't know what to do and were handling the alien-looking weirdo with their bare hands. It wasn't until later that they found out that they had accidentally caught a long-nosed chimera, a fish that has spines coated with venom. If Gary or one of his crew members had accidentally touched one of those spines, They could have been sent straight to the hospital. The long-nosed chimera is one of the weirdest deep-sea creatures around and is related to sharks and skates. But what's really fascinating is that according to Carolyn Meary, a marine biologist working for the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, this fish is made entirely out of cartilage. The whole animal is built from the same stuff you have on the bridge of your nose. It doesn't have a single bone in its entire body.
Number 10. A three-eyed snake. Park rangers working in the Australian outback were quite shocked when they discovered a strange-looking python with an eye growing right out of its head. Snakes normally only have 2 slits for eyes, but this bizarre snake had an extra one. It was found in the Northern Territory near the town of Humpty Doo, and the rangers have named the malformed serpent Monty. The unique reptile is a type of carpet python only about 3 months old and about 15 inches 40 centimeters, and complete with 3 fully functioning eyes. So far as animal experts can tell, Monty is able to see out of all 3 of his eyes. Still, the young snake was struggling to keep itself fed. You might think that having an extra eye would come as an advantage to the snake, but that wasn't the case. Usually when animals are born with deformities, life becomes more complicated, and the animals are usually more vulnerable to the elements and other hungry creatures. According to Ray Chatto from the park rangers, it was a miracle that the snake survived as long as it did without anyone's help. As for how exactly the snake managed to get an extra eye, it probably developed in the earliest embryonic stage while still inside the egg. Malformed reptiles are actually pretty common, with 2-headed snakes and lizards being discovered often. Carpet pythons are common throughout Australia, normally eating lizards and birds and other small mammals. Monty is currently being kept at the CSIRO Research Center, where he can be properly cared for. Number 9. The octogoat. The most unusual goat in the world was recently born in Croatia. As you might already know, most goats are born with only 4 legs and either male or female reproductive organs. This goat was significantly different. He or she was born with 8 legs and both types of reproductive parts. According to Time magazine, local veterinarians believed that the octogoat, as it was being called, gained its strange mutation by absorbing its underdeveloped twin sibling. Basically, twins had been growing in the womb, and one of the goats absorbed the other goat, gaining all 4 of its legs and its reproductive parts. Unfortunately, animals aren't really designed to have all these extra pieces. Doctors are pretty sure the goat won't survive past its first week, but if it does, they say it could live up to 2 or 3 years. These things usually resolve themselves immediately or before the animal gets too old. In the wild, an animal with this kind of mutation would never survive more than a couple of days. It has no way to protect itself from predators, and it may have 8 legs, but not all of them are useful. Number 8. Muscle-bound pigs. Sometimes the only way to mutate your animals is to do it yourself. And that's exactly what a Cambodian farmer did when he genetically modified his pigs to turn them into pigs unlike any other. Shocking footage was recently uploaded online showing the extremely muscular pigs that are currently being bred by a mad scientist sort of farmer in Cambodia. These pigs are enormous. Some of them are unable to walk because their muscles are actually so incredibly big, and the farmer is actually very proud of his creations. According to a report from the Mirror, the farmer was also selling supplies for artificial insemination to turn other pigs into super mutant pigs, with formulas going for as low as just $5. Now, why would anyone create a super muscled pig? The answer is that increased muscle in pigs can increase the price of pork per weight. This means the more muscle on the pig, the more money the pig is worth. People in the online community have obviously been quite upset by the images of these pigs, since it seems like the farmer used some kind of steroid or growth hormone to get the dramatic results. And yeah, it's probably not super humane, but that's just the price you pay for a bit of bacon in the morning. What do you think that pork tastes like? Do you think there are any side effects? Would you try and eat the bacon from this freakishly strong pig? Let me know in the comments down below, and while you're at it, go ahead and like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Number 7. Mountain Lion Mutant. A mountain lion found in the wilds of Idaho recently made biologists and wildlife experts scratch their heads as they tried to understand what kind of mutation the poor cat suffered from. It all started late December when someone's pet dog was attacked by the mountain lion. The big cat ran away, but the concerned hunter, worried about his canine, quickly tracked it down and finished it off, so that it couldn't finish his dog off. According to ABC News, that was when the hunter discovered a full set of teeth and a set of whiskers growing out of the fur on its forehead. The mountain lion was literally growing an extra mouth out of the top of its head. He'd never seen anything like it. According to Amy Rodriguez, a biologist working with the Mountain Lion Foundation, she also never saw anything like it in her 8 years of study. Nobody knows what could cause such a dramatic mutation in a mountain lion. Some say the extra mouth parts could have been the leftovers of a twin that died inside the womb. Another explanation is that the teeth could have been the result of a special kind of tumor known as the teratoma tumor, which is when hair and teeth develop outside of the tumor tissue. In humans, the same type of tumor can result in growing extra fingers and toes. Number 6. The purple lobster. An extremely rare lobster was caught by a professional lobsterman off the coast of Maine, and it's unlike anything you've ever seen before. The lobster in question was a dark purple color and so unique that some professionals have put the odds of discovering such a colorful lobster at over 1 in a million. Marine biologists often discover blue and yellow lobsters, and of course lots of red lobsters. There have even been black and white lobsters found and technicolor lobsters. But this is the first recorded incident in which a fully purple lobster was pulled out of the water. Nobody knows how exactly such coloration occurred naturally, but it is one fascinating mutation. Hopefully nobody ate the magic purple lobster. Maybe if left alone, it'll breed and make even more. Number 5. Two-headed birds. A man from Cape Breton thought he saw 2 birds wandering around in his backyard, but something about these birds didn't quite seem right, so Bill decided to investigate. When he got closer to the odd feathered creatures, he found that it wasn't 2 separate birds, but what he was seeing was a single bird with 2 heads, 2 beaks, and 2 wings. It was a bird mutant, and Bill actually saw it twice in 1 month. Both heads were pecking at the ground independently of one another, and it seemed to be surviving just fine despite its horrendous mutation. The bird was likely a ruffed grouse, and when Bill tried to get too close, it flew up into an apple tree. Bill managed to snap a photograph of the strange creature, and one of its heads appeared to be a bit larger than the other. After 30 years of living on his property, seeing all kinds of strange animals, Bill had never witnessed anything with 2 heads. Since witnessing it twice in 1 month, Bill has been keeping his eyes peeled in case the bird returns, giving the term birdwatching a whole new meaning. Unfortunately, he's not seen it again. According to local biologists, 2-headed birds are not entirely impossible. It's rare, but definitely something that can happen. The only problem is that survival rates for birds with extra heads are extremely low. Conjoined twins don't usually survive into the wild, but this bird seemed to be defying the odds. Number 4. Killer mutant fish. Along the border of India and Nepal, there was a giant mutant fish that was targeting swimmers and trying to eat them after developing a thirst for human blood. This giant mutant turned out to be a type of catfish known as a gunch, and was probably feeding on corpses thrown into the river after funeral ceremonies. Locals claimed the beast had been stalking the river for years, scavenging dead bodies before getting bolder and deciding to attack living swimmers. Finally, biologist Jeremy Wade decided to investigate the mutant fish, and yes, he actually found it. After a long struggle, Jeremy managed to reel in a monster gunch catfish that was 161 pounds, 73 kilograms, and 6 feet, 1.8 meters long. It was a world record for the species, and according to Wade himself, if the catfish had actually gotten a hold of a human person, there would have been no getting away. It's believed that the fish ate at least 2 Nepalese teenagers after dragging them underwater and biting them to death. I will definitely not be swimming in those waters anytime soon. Number 3. Toad with eyes in its mouth. A mutant toad was found in Ontario, Canada by 2 little girls poking around and playing house in their garden. The strange mutant toad had its eyeballs growing from the roof of its mouth instead of from its head. Biologists have called this genetic phenomenon a macromutation. This type of mutation occurs because of a change in a regulatory gene responsible for the array of structural genes. Basically, the mutation alters the way in which genes are supposed to form. The result in the case of the toad was that its eyeballs grew inside of its mouth instead of on its head. Interestingly enough, some scientists and biologists believe that macromutations can be blamed for sudden and dramatic alterations in certain species, proving why some evolutionary mutations happen literally overnight instead of slowly. For example, an animal suddenly growing legs rather than the legs developing slowly over a long period of time. The toad seemed to be surviving well enough with its mutation, and according to the photographer who took the pictures of the toad, it became more aware of its surrounding each time it opened its mouth, suggesting it could see just fine out of its eyeballs. It survived all the way to adulthood while living in the residential garden. Number 2. Creepy albino shark. A creepy albino mutant shark was found by a fisherman in Indonesia, and it looks so strange that many people believed it to be fake. Pictures of the mutant shark were recently uploaded online, causing people to accuse the fisherman of photoshopping the beast. But as it turns out, the bizarre shark was definitely real. It was born with the face of a human underneath its shark snout. The weird animal looked like kind of a deformed child's toy made out of white clay. It was discovered off the coast of Rotnadao in the east of Indonesia, inside of a pregnant shark's stomach. The fisherman had hauled the adult pregnant shark onto his boat with a net, and it was dead before he could return it to the ocean. Once dead, the fisherman cut open the shark's stomach and found 3 babies inside. 2 of them were totally normal, but the third had human features, including 2 round eyes under its nose instead of on the sides of its head. Nobody knows how this mutation occurred, and the fisherman is not parting with his mutant shark. He's actually keeping it preserved in his home because he believes that it will bring him good luck. What do you think? Is this baby shark lucky? Number 1. Snake with foot. In China, a snake was found with a foot. The reptile was discovered clinging to the wall of an elderly man's bedroom in the middle of the night. It clung to the wall with talons extending from its single foot. The monster snake was literally clawing its way across the wall. The snake was only about as thick as a finger and is currently being studied at the West Normal University in Nanchang. Long Shuai, a certified snake expert, says that nobody has any idea what caused the shocking mutation. Normally, snakes are found with 2 heads or extra eyes, but never before has a snake been found with a foot literally growing out of its body, and absolutely never with talons. Could this be the first evolutionary step to snakes with legs? Thanks for watching. What do you think about the snake with a foot? Which animal on this do you think is the strangest? Let me know in the comments down below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and come back soon for another amazing video. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.